Hello and welcome to another episode of Coach and Coffee. Get your coffee. It is tremendously hot out right now. The sun is blaring down and it poured rain earlier, so now it's super humid also. But you know, it's just summertime. That's what we got to deal with. If I were in Hawaii, if you can see my shirt here, I used to work on the island of Maui for Blue Hawaiian Helicopters. If you ever go there after the islands all open up again, take a helicopter tour of the volcano or something like that. It's awesome. Second note today, this mug, I haven't run out of mugs yet apparently, is a barbershop quartet mug that my wife's grandfather got during one of his barbershop quartet competition things, and I've seen one of his performances with the whole massive group of them, and it was great. And it's cool seeing people who love to sing getting together and sing, even though it's not a paid thing obviously, but they go around and they compete, and it's awesome. And actually I think that's where at least partly where my wife got a lot of her inspiration for music, was from her grandfather. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure, even if she wouldn't say it, I think it's true. So today we're going to cover a topic that is sort of interesting. It's not one that you necessarily ever really hear people talk about. So we're going to talk about how you look and what you're training for. There are a lot of people on social media who post things about being comfortable with their bodies and all that. If that's something they're going through and having to work with, and if they didn't used to accept it and now they do, that's great and all that's awesome. But I think a slightly different twist on the topic would be what people expect they should look like and what they actually do look like. For instance, myself, I do not have a big build at all. I used to be, man, when I hit the height that I am now, 5'9", back when I was 13, I weighed like 130 pounds. I was very skinny. I've always been very bony, and it took a ton of weight training to not be very bony. I'm still skinny. If you've ever seen me at a race, you know that. I don't weigh a lot. And even if I wanted to get massive, it has nothing to do with my goals right now. So it kind of so happened that my body type fell in line with the type of training that I more enjoy, and maybe it was just meant to be, or maybe I kind of just gravitated towards what my body type already fit. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I just did it. So for those out there who are built really small, just short or skinny or whatever, you don't look the way you want to look, probably because you've seen someone else who looks the way you want to look, which is great in the sense that maybe it's a motivating factor, but really it's kind of dumb to expect yourself to look the way someone else does. Your face doesn't look the same as anyone else's, except for the doppelganger theory. There's someone out there who looks exactly like you somewhere in the world, but almost no one looks exactly like you. So why would your body look exactly like someone else's? It makes no sense. But that's not how our brains work. We think we can look like they look. And sometimes you can get really close, but you're probably never going to look the way they do. And it really depends on your goals. And so this is where I more wanted to talk about things, is if you are in my shoes and you gravitated towards longer races and more endurance events versus just raw power short-term events, and you wanted to stay jacked, you were 180 pounds all muscle and you wanted to keep it, well, you kind of can't have both. I've never seen a really competitive ultra runner who is jacked. Some of you are probably right now going to tell me Ryan Atkins, and I wouldn't say he's jacked, I'd say he's ripped. He only weighs 160 or 165 according to him, and at his height that is not jack status, that is ripped. He's an amazing athlete. I am taking nothing away from that, I'm just stating reality here. is very hot. But for most endurance athletes who are doing the long distance stuff, ultra stuff, marathons, whatever, you are probably not going to see them jacked. That doesn't mean jacked people can't do those things, but if you want to be very good at them, your body type has to adapt. The more weight you carry, the harder those things are going to be for you, the more energy you're going to expend doing those things, the greater force you're putting on your joints and ligaments. That's something that we'll talk about in another video, but your body type's kind of going to gravitate to the type of training you're doing based on the goals that you have. So if you are Luke, for instance, he is working towards competing competitively at Hyrox, switching over from purely OCR to doing that as well. And so to do that, you have to be bigger. You can't be me and walk in there and push a 500-pound sled and expect to be the first one finished and then go through the other things and all the other, doing lunges with 70-pound sandbags and all of that. I don't have the muscle mass for the strength capacity and power capacities needed for those things because of the training I do and the types of races I do. If I wanted to do that, I'd have to change and adapt my training, and that would take a lot of work to build up muscle and strength for those things. But your body type is going to depend on what your goals are. And I think there's a misconception also that, like, just because you're smaller means you're great at endurance, at like long endurance stuff. Not necessarily the case. Or just because you're bigger means you're great at the strength stuff, and that's not necessarily the case either. It really comes down to what you train specifically for. So my challenge to everyone, and this is something I have to keep in mind all the time, because I used to be a skinny little kid and I didn't like being a skinny little kid, and that's partly why I started lifting weights. I just also enjoyed it. And I've, my whole life has been different because of it. And being in the industry now, it's what I do for a living. But I used to be that skinny kid, and I didn't want to be. And if that's your idea, great. Or if you're the big kid and you don't want to be and you want to slim down, great. But don't try and change into something else you see or someone else you see, because it's not going to work. You are an individual, and you are individually unique, and that's how you were created. So just work with what you have, and what you have is probably far more than what you think you have. So that's my challenge to you today as I sit here sweating buckets. It is hot, but not too hot for coffee. Just train for your goals. Don't worry about what you look like. Worry about whether or not you're making progress towards those goals. What you look like is almost never going to be a testament to what you actually are. Not always the case, but most of the time that will be. So keep that in mind. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's very important to do. So that's it. I'm done sitting in the heat here, and I will see you all next time on Coach and Coffee.